Hey, good afternoon. My name is Tom Connors. I am an Epsilon Upsilon, or member of the Epsilon Upsilon chapter of Sigma Chi fraternity. Joined the fraternity in the fall of '73. I'm very pleased and honored to be a part of this, thanks to Leslie and Sigma Chi headquarters in allowing us to talk about the message that Todd will be speaking about. I've known Todd for a few years now, and in my endeavor working with Greg Wolf on the mentor program here in Phoenix for the Phoenix Alumni Chapter, we've discovered that there's a lot of stuff in addition to mentoring that that the undergrads don't really know much about at this stage in their life. So we found that there's a lot of gaps in the knowledge, essential skill sets that undergrads need going forward and finding and beginning their careers. One of which is in the understanding of the impact of credit on their livelihoods, and also on the idea that beginning some form of investment and savings planning at this stage makes life a lot easier for them. And Todd has been a great asset in helping us get that message across. Todd comes from the credit and banking background, and he's got a lot of experience to bring to bear here. We've done this successful workshop on this subject a few times now with great appreciation on the part of the undergrads who have participated. So without further ado, I want to introduce Todd Nelson.
Thanks, Tom. I feel very honored to be part of Tom and Greg's mentorship program. It's been great. I think I've probably gotten more out of it than my mentees have, but it's just an amazing program, and I'm glad that sort of this conversation is now part of what we do. So what I want to start with today is just a conversation about credit, right? And I think for lots of folks, especially younger folks, the question is, what is a credit score? You may have heard of a FICO score, right? So FICO is just one brand of credit score. It's actually a product that was developed in the late 80s by the Fair Isaac Corporation. And banks, including mine and most lenders, use some credit score, FICO being probably the most prominent one, to make credit decisions. There are other types of scores out there. In fact, I would encourage you can get a copy of your credit report and see what your scores are by reaching out to any of the credit bureaus. The big ones are Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. But you can also get free scores from websites like NerdWallet, Credit Karma, and your card issuer. Generally, if you have a credit card, will also give you a copy of your credit report or tell you what your credit score is. So credit scores are important for a number of different reasons. And primarily what they're used for is to help millions of people gain access to credit so they can make major purchases like a car or a home or some other big ticket purchase. The other place credit scores get used predominantly are through almost any kind of application that you might fill out. So if you're applying to rent an apartment, to get a new cell phone, to get insurance coverage, to get your power turned on in your new home, those companies are also going to check your credit score. And what ends up happening is consumers with lower scores are going to get worse terms for those things than people with higher scores. So taking care of your credit is important because it will cost you more money if you don't. The other thing is that many employers will also look at your credit as part of their new hire screening process. So you may be eliminated from consideration for a job you're pursuing if you've not taken care of your credit. So those are the reasons why credit scores really do matter. So the ranges of scores, it depends on the type of score. But oftentimes you'll see a score of 550 or below is a very bad score. The highest score for something like a FICO score is an 850. That is a perfect score. You rarely see incidents of either end, but you will see lots of folks sort of lumped in the middle, kind of like a typical Bell distribution. The average credit score in the United States is about 680 the last time I checked. But to get the best terms on any purchase or loan or any kind of lending product, you're generally going to want to keep your score somewhere north of 740. So a 740 plus score is generally a very good score. And that's what you want to strive for, is a score that's in the upper to middle sevens, if not 800. That allows you, again, to get the best terms, the lowest interest rates, the fewest fees, right? So that's the range of credit scores. In the case of FICO, I actually got this from FICO itself. There are a number of factors that go into how their score is calculated. The biggest of which is your payment history. So how many payments do you have? How many of those payments have you made on time? The secret here is making sure that you make all of your payments for all of your debt outstanding on time every single month. That's the biggest determinant. The other thing that has a huge impact is how much credit you have outstanding and what your utilization is. So let's say you happen to have 4 different accounts. Each account is $10,000 and you have $9,900 balances on each of them. That is a very high credit utilization. It means you're almost maxed out on credit. That will have a very detrimental impact to your FICO score. The flip side of that would be you have 4 $10,000 credit accounts and you have 0 balances on all of them because you pay them off every month. That actually boosts your score significantly. The third factor here is length of credit history. How long have you had credit? When did you get your first card? When did you get your first loan? Those types of things. And we will look back as we pull your credit report to see how long and how much credit experience you have. The other thing that has an interesting impact is new credit. So you may find that you take out a new card, maybe it's a gas card or a store card, and your credit score will actually go up. So utilizing your credit and again, paying on time can have a very positive impact to your score. The other thing that we'll take a look at, and certainly the FICO score does this, is your mix of credit. How many different types of accounts do you have? Do you have credit cards? Do you have student loans? Do you have auto loans or eventually a mortgage? That mix of different types of credit is also important because it tells lenders something about your experience in using credit, how well you've done it, and being able to balance a bunch of different types of credit will have a very positive impact on your score. So the question is, how does one establish a credit score? We're not born with credit scores, right? They don't just happen. They have to be created. So one of the ways that someone that's young can start is by becoming an authorized user, perhaps on your parents' credit card. So assuming that your parents have decent credit or at least have established credit, you can become an authorized user, you have your own card, and that will signal to the Bureau that, hey, now Todd is starting to utilize credit. And the performance of that particular piece of credit, again, being paid on time, not missing payments, not being late, will be an important factor in how you establish your baseline score. Student loans also will show up on your credit report. So again, you can't afford to miss your student loans or any other payments. You have to pay your debts on time every single time to build a positive credit score. There'll be opportunities in college. I'm sure the credit card companies are still out there offering different types of student cards. They can be really scary and you have to really be careful. Like anything, you have to be responsible. So having a card is not the worst thing in the world. Using it strategically and making sure that you pay it in full every month so you're not spending more of your money on interest payments than you are on the things you purchase is important. So you have to be smart when you use any kind of credit as well. The other thing I mentioned is that you can also get the benefit of adding your utility payments, your cell phone payments, Netflix, even rent payments now on Experian's website through Experian.com/boost. So that will allow you to actually get credit to improve your credit score over time by the things you do every day, the bills you already pay. So let me transition a little bit from credit into more of a sort of kind of a money kind of budgeting conversation. So oftentimes, one goes off to school. People don't tell you everything you need to know about life, right? You may learn about anthropology, philosophy, engineering, whatever it is you're studying or classes you're taking, but we don't often talk about money. And NerdWallet, which is an amazing site with a ton of content, has lots of great information on a number of topics, but this is one that I borrowed from them. And that's just sort of 9 tips for college around money. So the first thing you need to do, and everyone needs to do this, whether you're in college or you're my age, creating a budget, right? Understand how much money do you have, and then making a list of the things that you need to spend your money on. Obviously, the priorities are going to be things like housing, food, transportation, right? Those are the most important things. And then, things like that are maybe not complete necessities like entertainment, social activities, et cetera. So making sure that you've got a prioritized list for how your money is going to go to work for you. As Tom mentioned at the onset, just understanding the basics of investing, right? When you start working, you really want to start day one on a retirement plan. And I know that seems sort of counterintuitive. It's like, I just got out of college, I'm just starting working, I'm finally getting a steady paycheck, and now you want me to think about retirement? And the answer is absolutely. That's the best time to start. You'll start those habits, and it will help you over your lifetime. One of the other things you'll have to pay attention to if you have any student loan debt or other debt when you get out of college is making an inventory of it and aggressively going after paying it off. You have to make your student loan payments on time, and again, any other debt you've got. But the more time and energy you can put to paying off any debt that you may have, then the more opportunity you have for saving and investment, which will help you out long term. Again, credit cards are tools. Use them as such, but don't misuse them. So understand how are you going to use credit cards, other types of loans, any kind of credit extension you may get. And at the end of the day, you want to make your money work for you rather than you working for your money. So that budget will allow you to decide where each of your dollars go, and be disciplined about it. Spend your money where you say you're going to spend your money, and set aside some money so you can manage any emergencies that may come up. So the next thing I want to move into a little bit is just a conversation around wealth building, right? So the way to get rich, right, long term is to save more money than you spend. But what that really means at the end of the day is minimizing your expenses. Don't spend money on things that are non-essential. Don't waste your money on things that aren't meaningful to you long term, right? Ideally, if you can, save 20 to 25% of your paycheck. Just put it away. You won't miss it because you never had it. It just goes into your investment accounts and you don't touch it. And start investing early. Literally day one, when you sit down with your company and you're filling out your paperwork, many companies will allow you to elect the options you have for retirement savings. And if your company offers a 401k that has any kind of employer match, where essentially you may contribute 3% of your salary to your 401k and your employer matches some or all of that, make sure you max that out. I've seen statistics where up to a third of employees in the US do not take advantage of their employer match for 401k or retirement. That's tragic because it's essentially free money that your employer is promising that you didn't pick up. So make sure you match out any employer matching. And even if you have limits as to how much you can contribute to your own 401k, there's nothing to stop you from opening up your own individual retirement accounts or other investment accounts or savings accounts, right? So again, be thoughtful about your money, set aside 20 to 25% of your paycheck. And most importantly, don't touch it. When you put your money in your retirement accounts or investments, leave it, because the time value of money will generate so much wealth over time. If you're dipping into it, you're really undercutting your ability to save for the long term. This is one of my favorite math examples of how to become a multimillionaire. Not really a secret. A Roth IRA, by the way, so an IRA is an individual retirement account. A Roth IRA is a special IRA where you put money into it after you've already paid tax on it. So, your company pays you, $200, right? The government's going to take its 30 or 40%, leaving you with $100 and some dollars. After taxes, it's that after-tax dollar that goes into a Roth IRA. So let's assume for a second that you put $105 a week of your hard-earned money that you've already paid taxes on into a Roth IRA. You do it every single week. And you put that money into an EFT or some kind of fund that mirrors the S&P 500. Standard & Poor's 500 are the 500 largest publicly traded companies. VOO or QQQ that you've probably seen commercials on are a couple of examples of an EFT that mirrors the S&P 500. So you put your money in there, and the time value of money, that compounding interest from those investments, 40 years later, you're going to have over $2 million tax-free. That's the beauty of the Roth IRA is you put your money in after you pay taxes, it goes to work for you for your career. And when you take it out at the end, when you retire, you don't have to pay a penny. So not so secret, but a great strategy for building wealth over time. And $105 a week isn't that much money at the end of the day. So I'm going to end with a couple of quotes here. These are some of my favorites, kind of related to money and credit. Nathan Morris says, every time you borrow money, you're robbing your future self. Absolutely true. Will Rogers says another good one. Too many people spend money they earned to buy things they don't want to impress people they don't like. Very true. And this Ben Franklin quote, the harder I work, the more luck I have. And I think that's just a sort of a testament to how you create your own opportunities. It's real simple. it's hard work, and it's discipline. Last thing I'll touch on today is career planning. The 3 pieces of advice: network, network, network. It truly is who you know, who you meet, right? There are lots of opportunities based on who you know. You need to get out there. You need to put yourself out there and network. You happen to have the advantage of being part of the best fraternity in the world who has an unbelievable network. Take advantage of it. LinkedIn, which is full of old people like me, offer lots of connections to Sigma Chi's. Take advantage of it. The other thing I would tell you is don't wait for the perfect job. Find a job that piques your interest. Find a job that pays your bills. Find your job that's going to teach you some things, and jump in. Take career risks early. If that means you have to move across the country, maybe you have to move to some place that you're really not familiar with, don't know anybody, do it early. Take those risks to take jobs that are going to teach you things and help you grow your skill set. You're going to learn a number of things while you're in school. You're going to learn most of what you learn through life, through your experiences, and through work. So take those risks early and find something that interests you. Find that thing that you become passionate about. And when you do within your career, become an expert. Dive deeply into it. Become better at it than everybody else. Because suddenly you're going to find yourself in a rarefied position where you know more, you've seen more, you've done more, and people are coming to you for your expertise, and that opens up tons of windows and opportunity. Never stop learning, right? This isn't a situation where you want to be in a role like, I've done everything, I know all about this, and you sort of sit back and relax. That gets real boring real quick. Don't stop learning. Challenge yourself. You never know what next best, more interesting opportunity is going to come along, but you have to keep pursuing. So be dogged in your pursuit of education. We, Greg, me, the rest of the Sigma Chi alumni, we are 100% here to help. If you want to copy this down, here's my LinkedIn address, Todd Nelson, 1855. You can also reach me directly, arizonanelson@gmail.com. And on the screen is my phone number, 480-458-7487. Email me, call me, reach out to me. I'm happy to help. That's what we're here for.
All right, brothers and guests, thank you so much, Todd, for joining us this evening. My name is James Hefner. I serve as a volunteer committee member for the Member Engagement Committee and the chairman of our webinar series. So, Todd, I really appreciate you joining us this evening and giving a great talk, and I know that there's plenty of questions that are going to be coming through our chat, so we appreciate you taking the time with us this evening to answer some of those questions. So brothers, if you do have any questions in whatever platform that you are tuning in from, feel free to drop your questions into the chat and we'll be able to bring them up as we get them. So first one we're bringing up is from Colin W. What would you recommend as step one in building credit for someone with no student debt and no credit history?
Get a credit card. Find a card that you use, whether it's a gas card, a store card, MasterCard, Visa card, and start utilizing that, right? And again, most important thing, like I said, pay it off every month, right? Use it for your mundane purchases, use it for your groceries and gas, pay it off every single month. Don't pay a penny of interest if you can help it. That's a great way to start.
Excellent. Thank you, Todd. Next question that we have is coming from Tim Wass. How do we rebuild credit when no one will loan you money due to past financial mistakes made in college years that will help secure financial stability and provide for retirement now?
Well, you're not alone there, right? Yeah, you're not alone at all, Tim. Lots of people make mistakes, myself included. One of the things you can look for is a secured card. So a secured card is an interesting financial product. It's a credit card in theory, but you're actually putting your own money in and basically spending on your own money with that card. It will start to help you build credit, help you establish a relationship with a lender, with a card issuer. And that's one path towards starting, right? The other thing that you can do is save, right? Save money, find a bank, credit union, build a savings account. It's much easier for a lender to offer you a credit card or some small loan if you have money in their bank, right? That's an asset that they can look at, even if it's not secured against it, to know something about you. So if you've got hundreds of thousands of dollars that you can put into checking or savings account, it makes it a lot easier to start a lending relationship with that same institution.
Great.
Good question.
Good question. So let us see. We're going to say hello to a couple of folks. Tim Wass is from Zeta Iota chapter at Pitt State University in
The
Kansas.
gorillas.
Colin W. comes from Eta Gamma, the Middle Tennessee State University. We have Jeff Murison, 1993 graduate from the Omicron chapter. We also have with us Charlie Neary, Nebraska Sigma Chi Alpha Epsilon. Next question that we have is what are some strategies for paying off debt efficiently?
So sort of two schools of thought there. If you're familiar with Dave Ramsey talks about the debt snowball, and his strategy is you sort of stack rank all of your debts and you pay off the smallest one first, right? So if you got $100, a $500, $1,000 debt, you pay the $100 one off first, then the $500 one, then the $1,000 one. The mental sort of process behind that is you sort of build momentum and you kind of knock the little ones off and then you give the bigger ones and you sort of manage it that way. I would argue that certainly you can do that. The other way I might think about it's a little more mathematical, which is what's the highest interest rate, right? Let's attack the one that's costing you the most and knock that one out first because it's the most expensive for you. So two schools of thought there, but both strategies you could employ to knock out your debt.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of those different types of loans that people can get, which tend to have higher interest rates than?
Well, credit cards have very high interest rates. You're looking at rates in the 20s, 20% plus. Payday loans, which I would tell everyone, avoid a payday loan or a title loan at all cost. They are predatory. They're awful. It's like whack-a-mole for the regulators. They try to sort of put these companies out of business and they just pop up under some other entity and some other way to weasel around the regulations. So please do not take on payday loans or title loans. You'll end up paying far more in interest than what you borrowed. They're just absolutely the worst of all possible loans. Store cards and other types of charge cards can also carry very high interest rates. But anytime you borrow, whether it's a credit card, an auto loan, mortgage, there's going to be a truth in lending disclosure, right? So you really need to look at the paperwork when you're filling out a credit application and look at that truth in lending. It will tell you, hey, what are the fees, right? What are the late fees or any other APR fees associated with any given loan product? And so do your homework, right? Look to see if you're thinking, okay, first card, well, what do you want in that card? Certainly look for one with a lower interest rate. But all that stuff is disclosed. We're required as lenders to disclose all those rates and fees up front. So it's all right there. Don't skip over it. It's important. Make sure that you understand what you're getting into anytime you apply for credit.
Great. Thanks, Todd. We have a question from the audience. Jeff Murison, what are the basic elements of a home mortgage?
The basic elements of a home mortgage. So I'm not a mortgage expert, but I can give you a little info, right? So generally speaking, you're going to borrow hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on where you live, maybe more. They're going to want some kind of down payment, right? So it may be, a hand, 1, 2, 3, 5%, or up to 20%, which, by the way, if you can afford it in the mortgage space, always try to put down at least 20%. And the reason why you want to do that is if you don't put down 20% of the home's value in the form of a down payment, you have to pay mortgage insurance. And mortgage insurance is just another cost that you have to pay out of your pocket to protect the lender. So if you put 20% down, the PMI goes away. That's how the mortgage folks will talk about it. And you can avoid that expense. So I would highly recommend, if you can, save up at least 20% before you purchase a mortgage. Then you're going to want to look at origination fees or any other kind of fees. If you go to a website like Bankrate's really good about educating you. There's lots of content on Bankrate, but you can see how the various lenders in your area charge different rates for different types of mortgages, right? So there are variable rate mortgages where the rate will fluctuate based on the prime or LIBOR lending rate. So as rates go up, as they've gone up over the last couple of years, people in variable rate mortgages have had to pay a lot more over time. Fixed rate mortgages are fixed. It tells you it's going to be 6%. It's 6% till you pay it off, right? And there's nothing to stop you from refinancing a mortgage later if rates go down. The rates aren't necessarily going to go down. We just happen to have come through a point in our history where rates for mortgages and everything got to unbelievably low levels, lower than anyone's seen in their lifetimes, regardless of age. I don't know that we're going to come back to that. So, rate's going to be another big factor. The length of time, the term, will also dictate the rate. So you can take out a mortgage for, as little as probably 10 years, certainly as long as 30 or more years. But the longer the term, the more interest you're going to pay over time. You'll also want to pay attention if there are any prepayment fees or any other fees that are added in, right? So you want to pay attention to those things as well. A good strategy, if you can, take the shortest amount of term out that you can, right? If you can get a 15-year mortgage over a 30, you'll save yourself hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, try to go for a shorter term. Again, put down a healthy down payment. Watch the fees, watch loan origination fees or other fees. And the lenders have to disclose all this stuff up front. So shop around. Like, don't just go to your bank because you've done business there for 10 years. Shop around. Find a specialty mortgage shop, or even better, find a mortgage broker, someone that's got access to lots of different lenders, and have them shop it around. Figure out who can get you the best deal on your mortgage. So do your homework. It pays. And a mortgage generally is going to be one of your most expensive loans that you'll ever take. So take the time to do your homework and shop.
Definitely. Thanks for that. We have a follow-up question. So are reverse mortgage loans a good strategy for senior citizens to keep their homes, get paid monthly, and then not worry about inheritance taxes to secure their nest eggs in retirement? I don't know if that's something in your wheelhouse that you may be able to help answer a little bit.
That's not something I know a lot about, but I would be very cautious about the reverse mortgage. It feels to me like an instrument that's there for somebody to make money, and it's certainly not going to be the homeowner. So, again, do your homework. I don't know enough about it to be dangerous, but I'd be very cautious about reverse mortgages.
Sure. Very fair. Thank you, Todd. We have another question from Colin. What would you recommend as step one in building credit for someone with no student debt and no credit history?
Was that the same question?
It may have been. I may have accidentally tagged it.
Did we recycle?
We may have recycled that one. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Here we go. Why do credit scores go up when you transfer balances to a different card?
Good question. Because you opened up a new line of credit, right? So generally speaking, and I was in the credit card space for a long time, the balance transfer is a way for us to get you to move your balance from one credit card company to another. And often will entice you with, maybe a 0% interest for some period of time to move your balance over. But that means you've opened up a new account. And so that's why your score may go up. Now, you also have two credits or two lines of credit. So let's say you had a $5,000 card that had a $3,000 balance. Well, now credit card issuer comes along and offers you another $5,000 line, and you transfer that balance over. Well, now you get two $5,000 lines and your utilization is only 30%. So you have both a new account and lower card utilization. It's a dangerous game though, because you have to be very careful. Again, you want to try to pay those off. You could take advantage of a 0% to pay it off. That's great. What you don't want to do is say, oh, well, now this one that I had is back to zero. Let me run that one back up. And you end up with two $3,000 balances. That is something that you don't want to do.
All right, pulling up the next one. There we go. How can I plan for some major life events such as buying a home or starting a family?
Well, I'm not going to help you on the family side, although I have 4 kids. So it's starting a family is definitely a commitment. But at the end of the day, it starts with doing your homework, right? Be thoughtful about it. Be thoughtful about your life. I talked about career and planning. Thinking about what you want to do. I mean, I remember when I graduated and I wasn't sure. It took me a while to figure it out. But in anything you go into that's, a major life event, whether it's getting married, buying a home, having kids, like, be thoughtful about it. Think about what you want, what you don't want, why you want it, why you don't want it. and plan. Do your research, especially buying a home, right? Where do you want to live? Why do you want to live in that neighborhood? Shop around. Like, don't just jump into something that says, oh, you need to buy this condo, or hey, now's a great time to buy, in whatever city. It's very cyclical, especially the housing market. So, think about your lifestyle, think about your whole life, the way you want to live, where you want to live, what you want to do, what's important to you, and be thoughtful about that. Write it down. That's the other thing I found too, is that writing stuff down helps. We don't do that as much anymore. We're a very digital society. We talk, we absorb a lot of video and content. We don't read as much, but we also don't write as much. But I find that writing is actually really helpful to making lists. What do I like about something? What do I not like about something? Just getting it out there is sort of cathartic, and it really helps sort of free up some mind space that you ultimately make better decisions. Have conversations with your friends, with your family, right? What do you think about this? You don't have to listen to their advice and take it every single time, but it's important to get other opinions, because you know what you know, but there's a lot you don't know, and somebody else may just give you a different perspective. You go, I didn't think about that. And the same conversations I have with my wife, my kids, my boss, my friends, like, I want their perspective. So, those big important decisions, share them with other people, have conversations, be thoughtful. That's all I can give you on that.
That works. Thank you. Next question that we have is, besides payday loans, are there certain credit cards to avoid because they're more predatory or affect your credit adversely?
So the cards themselves, they're tools, right? They're sort of benign tools. They're only going to impact you adversely if you don't pay them on time, right? Payday loans, certainly. Payday loans, title loans, avoid those at all costs. And again, you see interest rates that are creeping up over 36%, 60%, 900%, whatever it might be. Those are poison. They're just monetary poison, and avoid them at all costs. But I don't know that they're necessarily cards that you necessarily need to avoid. Again, it's all in the fine print, right? We as card issuers have to tell you how much interest we're going to charge. And you can decide whether you want that card or not. But again, shop around, do your homework, pick ones with lower rates.
Great. Next question that we have is, what is the difference between a bank and a credit union?
So it's mostly regulatory. The history of credit unions. So credit unions were started almost as cooperative groups that sort of, pooled and built sort of banking-like institutions, but built on more of a nonprofit basis. And so they were employee associations like the, American Airlines, Workers Credit Union. Some of them still carry those same names. The Arizona Federal Teachers Credit Union, sort of that sort of thing. And many of them are limited in geography. They serve a very specific group, at least historically, that's what they did. And their charters were limited as such, so that they could only maybe serve people in certain counties, right, or certain states. That's changed over time. And so now you've got some really big credit unions, right? Like Pentagon Federal Credit Union, whose primary purpose is to serve members of the military, is national. They're big. They advertise on TV. Great company, by the way. But generally speaking, the history of credit unions is they're nonprofit, and they're focused around serving very specific communities. Banks, on the other hand, are chartered differently. They're managed by the government, the regulators a little bit differently. Sometimes, again, chartered by a state in a geography, but many are national. So it just depends on kind of the regulation. Banks, however, are almost always for-profit, right? So we have shareholders. We are expected to return value to our shareholders, right? So generally speaking, they're going to be run as corporations. Credit unions, on the other hand, have some tax advantages from how they're structured, and they really are there to serve their members. So, I work for a bank. I have a credit union account, so nothing wrong with doing both.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks so much, Todd, for your time tonight. Let me just pull this off. So as we had mentioned earlier on in the presentation, this is part of some of the work that you do with the Phoenix alumni chapter. So we want to just share the contact information. If you're interested in a financial workshop for your chapter, something like that Todd does for the area, the representatives, the Phoenix Alumni Mentor Program co-director, Greg Wolf, is happy to hear from you. You can email him at woofy@sedona.net, and he'll be more than happy to connect and work with you to schedule one of these in partnership with the Phoenix Alumni Chapter.
Yeah, let me throw a plug in for those guys, James, because
Sure.
what Todd Connors and Greg Wolf have built, they built this mentorship program to serve the undergrads in the state of Arizona. And it's an unbelievable experience, I think, for the undergrads and for those of us that have participated. So, me doing this is sort of one very narrow plank in a wide platform that those guys have built. So if you've got alumni groups that are on or see this and you want to find out a way to sort of build a really robust mentorship program, those guys have a blueprint that they can share, and it's amazing. It's awesome. It's powerful. It serves the undergrads so well. So definitely reach out to Greg and Tom. They're great guys and have built something truly amazing. I'm happy to be a part of it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Todd, again for all that you did tonight. We appreciate you joining us and leading this webinar.
My pleasure.
Thank you. For our brothers and friends and guests that are watching tonight, I want to take a moment and thank you for tuning in with us this evening as we conclude our Foundations of Finance webinar. If you've enjoyed this discussion with Brother Todd, please share this signature series event with your friends and fellow Sigma Chi brothers, as well as anybody else who may be interested in learning more about this. If you visit the Sigma Chi Alumni Learning Consortium, you'll be able to see all of our past recordings, which include a feature of the Phoenix Alumni Chapter and their mentorship program. We encourage you to watch that and again share within your networks to help continue spreading the word. So thank you again, brothers. We appreciate your time tonight, and we'll see you next time at our next Signature Series event. Have a great evening.